Hi, I'm Thomas Heimer, the youth director here at Oak Hills, and today we're asking people what's something they wish their mother knew about how they felt.
I wish she knew how thankful I was for all the time she supports me.
I wish that my mother knew how much I appreciate the person that she's shaped me to be and the way that she's raised me.
How much I appreciated her always saying she loved me as much as I may have been dismissive or whatever. Like those, I always appreciated those.
I wish my mother would have known how much trouble I was getting into.
I appreciate how she's been my baseball coach for 7 years, how she's taught me everything I know about baseball for the past 7 years.
I wish my mother knew how much the Lord loves her.
She's really nice and that she helps me feel special and that I don't always have to fit in with the crowd or anything.
For the first half of my life, she was really raising me by herself. So knowing how much that meant to me.
I wish my mother knew how much I appreciated her every day that she was around and that she made a basis for me for the rest of my life that I follow.
I wish my mother knew how incredible she is as a woman, how strong she is, and how much a role model she is. I love her. I love her so much, and I'm so thankful to have her as my mom.
Thanks to Thomas, our youth director, who's been interviewing some of you and editing all that together. Thanks for those of you who are bold enough to take that little mic and share something. We have our final interview going on today in between services, so don't run away. Be a part when Thomas comes your way. I have loved this series. When Nick first mentioned that we were doing this series about things I wish I knew in the different decades, he can tell you I was like, I don't know, Nick, I don't know. But I have really loved it because the truth is that it reminds us that there are things we all need to relearn and be awakened to from all the decades of our life. And if you haven't had a chance to watch some of the other services, I would encourage you to do that online. I really liked the last 2 weeks on the 20s and 30s. And guess what decade I get? I know you're all saying, she can't be 40, right? No, I get the 40s. I'm on the upper side of the 40s, and so I will be talking to you about that today. And I remember my 40th birthday. I was in Tallinn, Estonia, and I was determined to make this a big deal. And I look back now and I think, wow, the audacity I had. I invited my college best friend who lives in Brainerd, Minnesota. We had survived the music degree together. I told her, you need to fly to Estonia for my 40th birthday. I told my sister, who was living in Seattle at the time, you need to save up and fly to Estonia for my 40th birthday. I told my best friend from Armenia that she needed to fly to Estonia for my birthday. And then I told my parents that they didn't have a choice, that they were also flying from Amsterdam, where they were living in Europe, to Estonia for my birthday. And can you believe it? They all came. I convinced them. I think about all the money that went to those tickets. That's a lot of money. I could have just asked for that instead as a big 40th birthday gift. But they came to Estonia, and Nick gave me a surprise party. In Estonia, there is a summer house for Catherine the Great from the Great Russian Empire, where Peter the Great had built her a summer home right near where we lived in Kadriorg Park. And so what they did, my husband and this team of people that came, they set up a secret tea party and got permission from the park to have tables and lights strewn between the trees. And he got my favorite things, scones and flowers and tea and a red velvet cake. Every single birthday I have a red velvet cake. And we all came and sat in this park and had my 40th birthday, and I was convinced it had to have dancing in it. And so we got a little speaker and we were dancing in the park. And that was my 40th birthday. And I really believed, I think the reason I convinced everybody to come is I believed what all the celebrities had said. Like when I saw Gwyneth Paltrow interview and she said, the 40s are the best. I finally know who I am. I'm not trying to impress anybody anymore. And I just believed I was stepping into this great decade of life. And why not dance? And why not party? And why not spend a lot of money to come see me in Estonia? But research shows, studies show, that the 40s are actually called by psychologists the age of unhappiness. And I'm adding it's the age of small deaths. And why is that? We're convinced that the 40s are great, But if I remember when my dad turned 40, they had this burial-themed birthday party with like gravestones and all this stuff. So there must have been something there that he didn't have the great tea party in Cadre Org. But the 40s are difficult because, number one, we age. It's the decade where we find out, and we can't hide anymore, that we are aging. I remember my grandma Grace. She was probably in her 60s and I was young. No, she was probably 70s and I was maybe 20. And she looked at me and she said, "Olivia, you don't understand. The inside, I feel just as young as you." And I remember thinking, what? There's no way. And now that I'm 46, almost 47, I see it's true. Our insides don't change, but our outsides age, and we start to see it. If you were once beautiful, in your 40s, you no longer enter a room and no one turns their head when you enter. If you were handsome and the jock of the team, no one ever notices you in your 40s when you enter a room. We cannot control our aging, but we try to. In fact, the stats say that 60% of you have spent money on anti-aging stuff. Anybody want to raise their hand? Well, I have to tell you, the good thing about having birthdays in your 40s is this is what my sister got me last year for my birthday. Get it going here. This. Have you seen these advertised? And the first time I put it on, my dog, who's what they call a Velcro dog, where she sticks next to me, I'm in the shower, she's on the bathroom floor. As soon as I put that on, she ran out of the room. Actually, it's a very generous gift. If you looked at the prices, those aren't cheap. And I had been complaining to my sister about the crow's feet that I can't get away from my eyes. And so she was very generous to me, and she mailed that to me for my birthday last year. We all are trying to fight aging, whether it be through shoe inserts that help our knees and our ankles and our arches, or through things like that. Another reason the 40s are difficult is we transition during the 40s. During the first half of our life, up until 40, we'll call 0 to 40 the first half of life, we are meant to answer these questions, and they're good questions. What makes me significant? What am I made to do in life? How can I support myself? How am I going to make enough money to live without my parents? And who will go with me? Who is my partner in life or my friends in life to go with me? But the second half of life is different. And in that 40s, we bridge the transition. I'm going to show you a picture of what I looked like when I entered my decade of my 40s. You can see me there, my parents. My dad is going to hate that picture. He goes, "Why do you always find the goofiest pictures of me and post them?" But here I am entering my 40s. You can tell I would be very busy. I have a daughter who's 8 and a son who's 12. And so all of the stuff with that, after school, I've always been a working mom, and I've always been a mom who's tried to make my kids feel like I don't work, so I'm cooking homemade meals every single night of the week. I'm running them to all of their soccer. Oliver was taking jujitsu and drums and all these things, and I was still working, and my life was just so incredibly busy. And now let's look at how I'm going to exit my 40s. Here's a picture of just Easter. And Nick looked at this picture. He goes, "I can't post that. I look so old." And we were here at Easter, and my son was away at college, so he's not in that picture. And my daughter was here, but now she has friends, and her friends, they drove off after church, and here Nick and I are left alone. I guess we get our Easter family picture, the two of us. And you think about the transition from how you start your 40s to you end your 40s. It's a huge time of transition. I would even say a point of a small death. I feel like when I sent my son away to college, it felt like a small death to me. That something had held my heart and my attention and was just a part of the balance of my home was suddenly gone. And I had to create a new life without his presence around every day. Number 3 in our 40s is we begin to plateau. And I see that there's 2 ways that we plateau. When you get out of college, you're so excited. You have dreams of career, maybe owning a house, of having a family someday. And when you get to your 40s, some of you look back and you say, "Okay, I've done that. I did the career I wanted. I have a house, I have a family, maybe you got married, maybe you have a savings, maybe you bought the car you always dreamed of, or you have the boat, or you visited the countries you've always wanted to go to, and suddenly you're sitting there and you're like, I have how many more years of this? I'm plateaued. Like, can't I just keep going? And the responsibility and the busyness, and is the rest of my life just here? And we feel this sense of plateau that is difficult to deal with. Or we have this sense that the big dreams of our life are really not paying out the dividends that we thought they would. All those things that we worked for in our youth, we're not even that happy. It's not really meeting our needs. And what is going to happen for the next 40 years if we live that long? I found this quote by Henry David Thoreau that I like, and it compares the first half of your life with the 40s on. It says, a youth gets together his materials to build a bridge to the moon. And that's like what my son's doing. He's an aerospace engineering major, literally wanting to build rockets to the moon. So when we're young, we have dreams to build a bridge to the moon, or perchance a palace or a temple on the earth. And at length, the middle-aged man, us and our 40s plus, concludes to build a woodshed with them. Our dreams aren't as big as they used to be, and we've plateaued. The other way we can plateau is that we realize that we did have all these dreams, and we're in our 40s and we realize we never got to them. That we took turns and we made adjustments and we compromised, and now we're in our 40s and we don't see any way we can still make those dreams happen. And so we look back and we have regrets. And so when these plateaus happen, what we do is what some people call the midlife crisis, but I think that's a little bit too cliche, is we look for that rush again somewhere. We look for a way to feel alive again somehow. So this is when you see many people leaving their marriage, having affairs. They're looking for that honeymoon again that they felt when they were young, and now they've plateaued. Or they look at all the dreams and they see no way that they could ever happen in the second half of life, and they just simply give up. My story is that in my late 30s, I was 38 when I decided to follow a dream, and I think I've shared about this before, but I auditioned for Estonia's version of American Idol. And tonight at 7's American Idol, every Sunday night I'm on my couch and I'm watching American Idol. I've always loved it. I love singing. I love the performance. I love the feedback. I love the dream. I love that someone can be from a poor city with no vocal training and they can have a dream that can happen for them. And I had that dream when I was younger. My parents found a book, and they brought it up this week. My parents are here for Mother's Day, and it was a book about me, Dr. Seuss. I don't know if anybody of you had that, and you write in all of your things, and you trace your hand and your foot, and obviously I'm very little. And in it said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I wrote, a musician. And yet I'd seen that dream die living overseas in Armenia and Estonia. So I'm almost 40, and I go audition for Estonia Idol with all these 20-year-olds thinking I might have a chance to win. And then when that didn't work out, and I cried and I sobbed in a very embarrassing way in public TV, I then went to get my master's degree, and I decided I'm going to get my master's of fine arts in writing, and I finished that. I'm going to start a new career. I'm going to work hard to build my new life. I'm going to dream big. I'm going to turn around all the years that I didn't get to pursue dreams while overseas and do finally what I'm created to do. But you know what I find? Even as I dream and I work toward it, is I don't have the hope and the energy I had when I was 22. Number 4, when we're in our 40s, we wrestle. I found this quote, and I love it. A writer who was asking questions of an old monk named Father Makarios. The writer asked him, do you still wrestle with the devil, Father Makarios? And the old monk reflected for a while, and then he replied, not any longer, my child. I have grown now, and the devil has grown old and tired with me. He doesn't have the strength. No, now I wrestle with God. With God, exclaimed the astonished young writer, and you hope to win? I hope to lose, my child. My bones remain with me still, and they continue to resist. Our second half of our life, we begin to wrestle. not just with dreams like we did the first half or trying to leave our mark on the world. We wrestle with the true meaning of who we are, with who God is. And God often calls us into something in our second half of life that feels like an inner death. The first half of life, we have to be a bit narcissistic. We have to build our ego. We have to build this structure. It's how we're designed to do. But God doesn't leave us there. He knows that we're meant for something more, that we have to move beyond it in the second half of our life. The first stage of our life, God calls us to give up something for Him. In the second stage of our life, God calls us to give up everything for Him. And humans and our egos, we prefer anything but failing, but falling, or changing, or dying. We will wrestle against it. Look at that face mask I put on. I'm wrestling against dying, against aging, against everything. And the best kept secret to your 40s and beyond is this law, that the way down is actually the way up. Or as Jesus said, you must lose your life to finally gain it. I found a story of someone, I don't know their exact age in the Bible, but I would say that they're middle-aged, and that is a story of Jacob. If you know about Jacob, there was Jacob and his brother Esau. Esau was the older one, and in that old ancient culture, his father was wealthy and had a lot of land, animals, and the oldest son would get the birthright. And the birthright meant that you got everything that was the father's. You got his wealth, you got his name, you got to be the leader of the family. You got the land, you got the livestock. And what Jacob did to Esau was pretty horrible. He tricked his father, who was blind, into giving him the birthright, and he was the second born. So Esau didn't get what was deserved for him, being the firstborn, but Jacob stole it, and his dad put his hands on Jacob and gave him everything before he died. And Jacob was so scared that Esau was going to murder him. You can imagine this, the betrayal of his younger brother, that he fled and lived in exile for 20 years. So that's why I'm saying he's middle-aged, because we're thinking he came to the age where he got the birthright, he fled, he was in exile for 20 years, living with his uncle, he married there, he had children, and that blessing from his dad was on him, and he became very wealthy, even in this foreign land, even in exile. But God called him back to his homeland, and you can imagine Jacob going back to where he knew Esau was with his family, and he was so scared that Esau was going to have revenge on him. And so he went back and he sent first all of his livestock and all of his wealth, saying, this is a gift to you, Esau. You know, he was trying to warm his brother up. And then he sent his wives and children in because he knew that they were innocent and that maybe Esau would have grace if he saw the children and the wives. And Jacob was left all alone, getting ready to go back to his brother, hoping that he could reconcile, hoping that he could come back home. And this is what happened. Jacob was left alone, and he began to wrestle with an unknown man, who we later find out was God. Let's read this in Genesis together. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. And when the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. And the man said, let me go, for it's daybreak. But Jacob replied, I will not let you go unless you bless me. The man asked him, what is your name? Jacob, he answered. Then the man said, your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans, and you have overcome. Jacob said, please tell me your name. But he replied, why do you ask my name? Then he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, it is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared. And the sun rose above him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. This wrestling with God that we see with Jacob is a pivotal moment in his life. It marks a turning point where he confronts all the deceit of his youth. And he seeks a renewed blessing and a renewed future from God. Did you notice he said, I won't leave until you bless me? We in our 40s, we need to wrestle with God and say, God, you're real. I will not leave. I will not go until you are with me, until you bless me. Finally, in our 40s, sometimes we develop a limp, just like Jacob. Jacob, the rest of his life, had a physical sign that he had wrestled with God, a limp. I used to hate scars. I have quite a few scars. I have the type of face that if you even get like a white head, it's scars, you know. Any pimple, any sort of thing. I was asleep and got a spider bite 2 years ago, and I have a big pit here in my face. I used to hate scars. I've asked my dermatologist, how can we get rid of the scars? I hate limps. I hate now that I have to wear inserts in my shoes. Otherwise, I start to limp. But now that I see in my 40s, life gives you scars. A life well lived means you will have scars. You will have a limp. Because you've gone out and you've failed and you've gone into the arena and you've tried your best to live life, and life is not always perfect. And sometimes we limp, especially in our second half of life, because the emotions that we covered up when we were so busy following our dreams start to show up in our 40s. We may find that there's anger there, that there's bitterness, that there's jealousy, that there's contempt, a belief that you're better maybe than the person that you married or better than someone else. There can be a hatred or a desire to just run away, start a new life, and start all over. So I've told you about the decade of unhappiness. Do I make any of you younger than 40 a bit scared to move ahead? But let's talk about some things that we can do to make it through our 40s and to grow and to become the person we're meant to be for the second half of life. The first thing, and I'm going to say this, and I can immediately imagine many of you are just going to click off, oh yeah, I knew that, oh yeah, I knew that. It's cliche. But really, it's not. This is one of the hardest things to do and the easiest thing to say as a Christian. We like the prayer hand emojis. We like to just type, I'm praying for you. But do we actually do it? Do we get on our knees and do we pray and ask for God? We have to go into our 40s with an importance of prayerful dependence. Before we used to pray for our dreams, and now we have to pray as if our life depends on it, because it does. And you realize that all those times you were younger and you would do your early morning devotions and the techniques, and you would come to church and pray, and you would take communion, and you would do all of these things, that they are just a dress rehearsal for the real things that happen in the second half of your life, which is a dependence of constant prayer and living with God, not just in the morning, not just in the evening, not just when there's a car wreck, not just when our kids need a prayer, but it's a constant conversation with the God of the universe. This is what our second half of our life is meant to be. A constant conversation, praying for everything all day long. And you start to realize that it doesn't have to be a holy place. It can be while you're in the grocery aisle and you see someone and God just puts something in your mind for that person. You notice them and you start to pray for them. It can be that you are in your home and a pipe starts to leak and flooding everywhere, and you can take a moment and say, God, I don't know a plumber. I don't know anything. I don't know what to do. Will you help me? And God will show up. It's all the time. It's in every need. It's in every meeting. When you know you have a meeting that you feel rejected from someone or hurt from someone, you feel overlooked, before you go in, you just talk to God all day long and in everything. And we learn to hear his voice. One of the best examples for prayer we have is the book of Psalms, and that's why many people throughout the centuries have just spoken out the Psalms as prayers when they don't have words for themselves. And we see that one of the words that occurs the most in Psalms, written by the mighty King David, is the word help. Over and over again, help, help, help. Let's read Psalm 31. Be merciful to me, Lord, for I am in distress. My eyes grow weak with sorrow, my soul and body with grief. My life is consumed by anguish, and my years by groaning. My strength fails because of my affliction, and my bones grow weak. But I trust in you, Lord. I say, you are my God. My times are in your hands. Deliver me from the hands of my enemies and from those who pursue me. The second half of our life, we simply start to say help a lot. And we rely on God. Another thing that's going to help us through our 40s is an importance of a fresh vision. Maybe you've forgotten what was written about each one of you in Ephesians. It says, for we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for you to do. Do you realize that God already has things prepared in advance for you to do? Whether you're 10 or whether you're 50 or 60 or 40, he still has a vision of things and people and neighborhoods and cities and workplaces of you to bring the goodness and the love of God. And he has things to show you personally that you need to do. It's not always for everyone else. He wants things to be done in your life that bring you joy, that bring you peace, that bring you in communion with him. Nick read this piece of writing for me out of a book, and I cried when he read it. And I think if I could read this for any of you in your 40s right now, and I think anybody who's 60 plus would probably say, this is so true. I'm going to read it now. It says, despite the privilege of being young, because really in our 40s we're relatively young, being healthy and being in charge, it is easy to feel burdened, taken for granted, underappreciated, and used by others. That is a feeling that can weigh us down for long periods during our adult years and can make us fall asleep to something that we will wake up to only when it is too late. Namely, that these years when we are young and healthy and in charge are the best years of our lives. There's something worse than having too much to do, and that is having nothing to do or too little to do of importance. And we will be a lot more awake to that fact when we sit in a retirement home, stripped of youth, stripped of our health and our car keys, knowing that all those years when we thought we were being taken for granted were years of privilege that were laden with potential for joy, that because we were unaware of the privilege, we never quite picked up on. God has a vision for our life. We are still young. We still have energy in our bones. We can't listen to the lies that life is over, that dreams have been unaccomplished. We can make a difference. The other thing that are important to do in our 40s is the importance of healing. Like I said, in your 20s and 30s, you can kind of push down a lot of the emotions. You're so busy, kids, whatever. Your kids start to leave home, and suddenly these emotions that have been there a long time start to reveal themselves. And you have the opportunity to keep pushing them down, keep getting more angry, jealous, bitter, avoiding and running away, or you can do the brave thing and choose to heal. And so I'm begging you to choose to heal. Whether you're in your 60s and it's still there, your 50s, your 20s, you have to make a choice to heal. And it's messy. Healing is one of the messiest things you will ever do. I see a therapist almost every week, and I keep hoping every time I'm driving there, I think I'm going to tell her I'm done now. I think I've achieved, I don't need to go anymore, and I go there, and there's still something, because you know what? I have 47 years of accumulated things that I want to heal from, that I do not want to carry with me in the second half of my life. And because I want to become what Henry Nouwen called a wounded healer. People don't heal things that they've never experienced before. People can help others heal the things that they have experienced, the wounds that they have that God has put his hand in and helped us walk through. May we all become wounded healers. May our limps and our other things help other people find freedom because we've done the hard work. And as one of my favorite psychologists says, Brené Brown, I read this when I was in one of the worst struggles of my life, one of those struggles where you just don't know how you're going to make it every day. And she had a quote, "The middle is messy." So when you're working on healing, you're in the middle a long time. It's messy. You're working through this pain and all these emotions. But the middle is messy, but it is where the magic happens. The magic happens in the middle years if you lean in to God and do the work. And finally, in our 40s, we have to deal with the importance of true identity. Our beauty is not going to carry us anymore. Our talent isn't necessarily going to carry us anymore. We're on a diminishing scale here with our working memory, with other things like that. Our children can't carry us anymore because they're going to leave home. All the energy and time that we put into them is suddenly gone. Our marriages can't carry us anymore because we've grown. And we have to know our true identity. I often say this quote to myself that was from Dallas Willard, and I love it. And this is what your true identity is. You are an unceasing spiritual being. I'm going to say that again. An unceasing spiritual being. You do not finish. You do not die. You will go on forever. You are a child of God, and you have an eternal destiny, not just an earthly destiny. You thought you had goals here. They don't end here. They continue beyond this life. I think I will sing beyond this life. I think I will write beyond this life. Whatever the giftings you have, they don't change on the other side of this earthly realm. You have an eternal destiny partnering with God and His goodness. And you are a part of God's great and powerful universe. This is who you are. Do you realize how powerful and eternal you are? A child of God. Our 40s can feel like the two disciples on the road to Emmaus. Jesus had just been crucified. Now you have to imagine you follow Jesus. You've seen him heal people. You've seen him bring someone from the dead. You've seen him preach and thousands come. You've seen him go to the poor, to the sex workers, to everyone. And they all believed that he was the promise they'd been waiting for, the Messiah. And the Messiah, they believed, was going to set up a kingdom in Jerusalem. And yet they saw that same man, imagine it, allow himself to have nails in his hands and to die and to be mocked. And two women had said, after Jesus died, Friday, Saturday, it's Sunday. These men are leaving Jerusalem, these two disciples, and walking towards Emmaus. It's Sunday. And two women had told them, we saw the risen Jesus in the garden. And these two disciples said, impossible. Not true. We are leaving the dream in Jerusalem and we are walking away 8 miles to a different city, away from everything we believed. We've turned and we're walking towards another constellation in a different city of Emmaus. And then what happens? A stranger comes and walks with them. And we later learn that the stranger is Jesus, the risen Jesus. And the disciples don't recognize him. And he goes, why are you so distraught? Why are you so depressed? And they're like, are you the only person who hasn't heard that the great Jesus was crucified today? And everything's ruined. And at that moment, even though they still don't know he's Jesus, Jesus says, how foolish you are. How foolish you are. Aren't we like that in our midlife? We're like in between Good Friday when Jesus dies and the resurrection, and we're walking. And Jesus is there right beside us, and we say, we don't even recognize him. We just see that we're going away without hope. And then here we have the scripture in Luke 24. Jesus sat at a table with them. He took bread. He gave thanks. They still don't recognize him. He broke it, and he began to give it to them. And suddenly their eyes were open and they recognized him, Jesus. And he disappeared from their sight, and they asked each other, were not our hearts burning within us while he talked with us on the road and opened the scriptures to us? And they got up and they returned at once back to the dream, back to Jerusalem, back to the early church. And there they found the 11 other disciples and those with them assembled together and saying, they said, "It is true, the Lord has risen." We're living in between Good Friday and that Easter. And if you look, you will find that Jesus is there walking beside you in the questioning, in the despair, in the unhappiness, in the healing. And you just have to recognize him. You have to recognize that he's there and that he's calling you back to Jerusalem. He's calling you back to the dream that he is the Messiah, that he has conquered death, and that he will make all things new, and he knows your name. He knows your name, and he knows your dreams, and he knows a vision for your life. I'm going to end today by singing a song. I'm dedicating it to all the moms in the room and to all those who believe lies, that you're on that road and you can't see Jesus with you. I heard this song. It was sent to me by one of the elders of the church after me sharing some pain I was experiencing, one of the elders here at Oak Hills, and he asked me to just listen to the song over and over again, and it really spoke to me. And so to all of you moms, I like that in the words it says, sometimes look in the mirror and all I see and all I feel are lies. But it comes back to the truth is I am a child of God. And so I'm going to invite Levi out for the keys. And I'm going to sing this song for you as a response song to the message today.
To believe it. The enemy keeps whispering to me, swear these days it's all that I'm hearing. I used to know who I was, now I look in the mirror and I'm not so sure. Lord, I don't want to listen to the lies anymore. The truth is I am my Father's child. I make him proud and I make him smile. I was made in the image of a perfect king. He looks at me and wouldn't change a thing. The truth is I am truly loved by a God who's good when I'm not good enough. I don't belong to the lies, I belong to you. And that's the truth. When I feel like there's so much noise living rent-free in my head, heaven finds me in a still small voice and it sounds like grace instead. You remind me who I am when I look in the mirror and I'm not so sure. Lord, I don't want to listen to the lies anymore. The truth is I am my Father's child. I make him proud and I make him smile. I was made in the image of a perfect king. He looks at me and wouldn't change a thing. The truth is I am truly loved by a God who's good when I'm not good enough. I don't belong to the lies, I belong to you. And that's the truth. I know who I am, 'cause I know who you are. And gonna try and find me, but I've never been so sure. The truth is I am my Father's child. I make him proud and I make him smile. I was made in the image of a perfect king. He looks at me and wouldn't change a thing. The truth is I am truly loved by a God who's good when I'm not good enough. I don't belong to the lies, I belong to you. And that's the truth. And that's the truth. We're going to go back to that chorus, and I want you to sing them for me, because there's something when you say it for yourself rather than me singing them over you. The truth is I am my Father's child. Try to do as best as you can. The truth is I am my Father's child. I make him proud and I make him smile. I was made in the image of a perfect king. He looks at me and wouldn't change a thing. The truth is I am truly loved by a God who's good when I'm not good enough. I don't belong to the lies, I belong to you. And that's the truth. God, that's the truth. In our 40s, sometimes those lies accumulate. We don't even recognize that you're there on the road with us, calling us back to the dream, calling us back to you, calling us into a powerful second half of life. Use our wounds to heal, use our past to help others along the way. And God, give us a vision for our future. May we use these great years of our life when we still have energy in our bones to dream big. May you give us a new vision, a new plan, a new dependence on you. May our constant life be a constant prayer and conversation. May we learn to hear your voice. And may your love go with us, and your peace and your healing power. In Jesus' name, amen.
Wow, what a powerful message this morning. Before we depart this gathering, I want to make sure that you feel comfortable if you need some prayer. So any of our pastors, Pastor Matt, Pastor Olivia, Pastor Nat, if you see them, any of our elders, they would love to pray with you. We also have an amazing prayer team that are trained and ready to just listen and pray with you this morning. So take that opportunity, and we pray every week over all the prayer requests, no matter how great or small. And so you can send those in, or you can just talk to us. And on Wednesdays, our staff gathers and we pray over all of those prayer requests, and we keep those. And we're also reading out when we hear of an answer to prayer. And so that's something as well that we would love for you to send in, because that shows us that God is really working. It builds our faith, and we would love to share those with you as well when we get those answers to prayer. So share those with us, and we may have that conversation with you. You know, is it okay if we share this with the whole church? God is up to something at Oak Hills Church. There's people that are coming up to us, and they've been here coming for a few months, and they're saying, because of the people at Oak Hills Church, I just want to come back, and maybe this can be my home church. And so we do have an opportunity to, on a Sunday, even though it is a time, you know, on Mother's Day, we need to get off and get the food ready, or go out to a restaurant and beat maybe some crowds to the restaurants. But don't miss the opportunity to make the Sunday gathering an opportunity to build relationships. We do not want to be a consumer Christian society. We don't want to be a consumer church where we just come in and listen to a great teaching and leave, let's be the hands and feet of Jesus in each other's lives, even if it's just a smile. And so we provide a little bit of an incentive by having legal addictive stimulants available to you in our big room. And so grab a cup of coffee. This coming Wednesday, we have our next installment of, it's kind of a membership class, although if you don't really, you're not interested in membership right now, but you want to know more about Oak Hills Church on a deeper level, we will go for 4 weeks. We call it Oak Hills Church 101 this Wednesday. Starting this Wednesday for 4 weeks, and you can come and I'll be teaching that. And we're just gonna dig into the vision and values of Oak Hills Church, how you can make a difference, some of the beliefs that we have that would be distinctive from maybe other types of churches, and how we're the same as most other types of churches, I think you come to find out. And then get to know some people. So 4 weeks starting this Wednesday. And before we go, we also always want to give everyone an opportunity to connect. So if you have been coming one time, 2 times, a couple of times, and you just want to let us know, hey, I like what you guys are doing, I want to know more, you can talk to one of us out in the hallway. We have a welcome area, or you could just go to the website and click on connect, and just let us know that you visited and you want to know more. So as we go today, let's go celebrate moms, and let's go with God's grace and God's peace, and come back next week. If you know somebody that's 50, 60, or older, drag them to church with you. Grab their walker, grab their oxygen tank, and bring them with you. And we'll make sure that the temperature in the building is not below 75 or 80 degrees. And we have a special guest speaker who you're gonna love. He's a phenomenal communicator and very accomplished minister. So come back next week with some friends. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.